Hi everyone, Marika here from Cozy Kitten Digital. So today we'll be looking at note-taking apps available on the iPad, and specifically three: Goodnotes, Notability and Collanote, and looking at the pros and cons of each one. How we're going to do that is just going through the pros and the cons of each, and then I'll show you the final list at the end. So over here we have Notability, and there are many tools in each of these apps, including Notability. I'm not going to go through all of them because otherwise this video will get too long. So one of the first pros I did find in Notability was the text option. So if you want to write something down, this text bar here is absolutely phenomenal. And the next pro that I have is you have three favorites options for text. So you can favorite it as your first one, in red, size 16, and then you can pick a second one, which could be that, pink, and so on and so forth, and then you can toggle between the different favorites if it will start typing. There we go. So that's one of the two, actually, of the first pros of Notability. A second pro with Notability is when you have a writing tool. So let's say we want to have a fat one in purple and we want a plain pen. You can favorite that and it'll go over there, and then the next one will be the same but just in blue. You can favorite that. Unfortunately, this is going to be one of the cons. In order to have favorites, more than one favorite, you need to subscribe. But yeah, you can have three favorites and they'll be over here, and you can move the toolbar around and toggle between the different ones. So that's one of the benefits, and you can have up to 12 if you have a subscription. Next is the file sorting system. It is far better. It's quite similar to Notes, the app on Apple. So when you have this, you can have different subjects, and then you can have dividers within the subject. So let's say you have mathematics. You can have, in mathematics, you can have algebra, you can have geometry, and you can have trigonometry. Can't remember how to spell that. There we go. And then you can have a new subject. Let's say, oops, new subject, and we call that science. And we have within science, we can have chemistry and physics. So it's a much better way to sort out your notes, especially if you have many subjects with many subdivisions within the subject. And of the three that we're comparing today, it's the only one that has dividers like this. Another benefit would be you can either scroll sideways or you can scroll seamlessly like that. So that is another pro. The reason I call this a pro is because if you have, most of the time I prefer to have the single page, because if you have a book-like notebook, you can page through like a book. The other pro with Notability is the voice recording tool. So while you're taking notes, you can record, and that way, if you're in a lecture, you can record that lecture and you can hear what the lecturer said, and basically you don't miss a single thing just because you were fiddling with your note-taking app. And as you can see there, you can then play, scroll through, that type of thing. The other So the other benefit is you can also see what you wrote when the lecturer said what. So then, and that way, if you're in a lecture, you can record that lecture and you can hear what the lecturer said, and basically you don't miss a single thing just because you were fiddling with your note-taking app. And there you can see I wrote down that during that piece of the lecture. So that's a very handy tool, and definitely something, if you're a student, that is very, 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 very useful. So you don't miss a thing and you know what you wrote down when, and you can decipher your notes because often I can't read my own handwriting. The other pro that I do like is when you have an image, you can manipulate the image in that when you resize it, it actually loses opacity. So that way you can actually see the lines you want to keep the image within. So it's very, very useful. Then when you do have a subscription, which I'm not going to do because I don't use Notability, it does have wonderful options, like for instance, having regularly updated yearly planners, stickers, themes, journals. It has maths conversion, handwriting, auto backup, and all of these tools. That said, this leads us quite nicely into the cons. One thing I despise that is happening in the modern world today, and what will 100% make me never use an app, is if I have to subscribe. Yes, I'm willing to pay for a premium product, but they make me pay once off. The new thing that we have to subscribe for a year, that grinds my gears. So this is what 100%, if I had to be choosing a new note-taking app, would make me say absolute 100% no to Notability, it would be this. So that's the first con, and I think for me, the ultimate con. The second con is that the lasso tool is just not as diverse. It is literally for text, a copy, and that's it. It's a bit more diverse for your pen, so you can convert it to text, which that won't work. And you can change the style, which is nice. But in terms of the text, it is really not that diverse. And similarly with images, it's literally just a copy and paste. You can't move the images around. You actually have to tap on the image to do that, to manipulate the images. And the image manipulation is poor in my opinion, but that's just a personal preference. And when you look at the templates, this is the last con. The templates are basic. Yes, there are quite some interesting ones, but they're very limited. So that's very interesting. I'll give them that. So unless you are a paid subscriber, you are very limited to the templates that you can get. So that was Notability and the pros and cons of that. Let's move on to Collanote. So with Collanote, the one big pro, that was my dog, of Collanote is that it is free. It is 100% free. So if you don't want to pay one-off, if you don't want to pay a subscription, it is free. And what you get for it is absolutely phenomenal considering it is free. And I can't say it enough, it is free. The other benefit of Collanote is just the number of patients that you, the number of papers you get. So look at all those different types of papers. It is absolutely phenomenal. So good. And again, this is free. And not only do you have different paper types, but you have all these. And look how pretty they are. I mean, that is absolutely amazing. Look at that. So let's create that note. Look at that. That is just beautiful. Anyway, so that's another con. The other pro that I have with Collanote is the pen. You can change the opacity. So for instance, if you want a really wide pen on green and change the opacity, that could be a highlighter, or you can make stickers or things like that. It is absolutely great. Another benefit of Collanote is you have the auto switch back to the last tool for the eraser. That is something that I absolutely love. So if you have a pen and you want to erase, it goes back to that pen, which is phenomenal. Another pro is the filling tool. So for instance, if you have that, you can go to the fill tool and you can fill something, and then you have the different styles. So you have, look at that. Look at that. And you can change the colors. Isn't that great? You can add different colors. Look at that. It is absolutely phenomenal. So if I had that, wow, absolutely great. The next fantastic thing about Collanote is the ruler option. So you can move the ruler and you can look, it has angles. So if you're working on a maths thing, oh, isn't that great? And then you can, it shows you how many inches. You can set obviously inches and the different metrics, but it shows you how many millimeters. So that line is 1,400 millimeters. I call bull, but anyway, I don't think that's millimeters then, but you can measure. Isn't that fantastic? Huh? The other benefit of Collanote is it also has a voice recording tool. So you can record your lecture and it is absolutely great. So you can then also play. So you can record your lecture and it is absolutely great. And it shows you what you wrote at which point, similarly to Notability. And then my next favorite tool is the add to favorites. So let's add that to favorite. Let's add that to favorite. Let's make it a bit narrower. Add to favorite. Add to favorite. And look how many favorites you can add. And not just of the same tool. So let's add that one to favorite. And let's add that one to favorites. Look at that. And it tells you what tool, what color, and what size. And then you can quickly toggle between them. Isn't that amazing? Absolutely love it. So those are some of my favorite aspects of Collanote. So let's move to some of the things I don't like. So you can't change the eraser size. All you can do is whether it's a partial erasure or a whole erasure. That is it. So it's this tiny, if you use a partial one, let's use the thick pen, it is tiny. So if you want, and the other option is to erase the whole thing. So that's one of the cons. The other con is the filing system. It is, you do have folders that you can have, but it's like this. So you don't have a list on the side to have a holistic picture of what you're looking for. So if you have a bunch of different folders, you actually have to go into each individual folder to see what you have. Or if you're looking for something, that type of thing. So that is one downside. And the last downside, so as you can see, the last con is it's only a scrolling down option. You can't scroll side to side, or at least not that I could find, and I've looked. That's image manipulation. Okay. Those are the only cons I can find with Collanote. So really, this is a phenomenal app. And again, it is free. So if you're looking for a note-taking app and you're new to all of this digital note-taking, perhaps try Collanote, see how it goes, and yeah, definitely would advise. Lastly, Goodnotes. This is the app that I use personally, so I might be a little biased when it comes to Goodnotes, but I will try my best to be impartial. So one of the first pros, but also one of the first cons of Goodnotes is the pro is it's not a subscription, it's a once-off payment, making the con that it's not free. So you do have to pay, I believe it was 12 Australian dollars. So it's not very expensive and it's once off. I'm willing to do that for a premium product and a tried and tested product. So that's okay in my mind. The one thing I love about Goodnotes is its lasso tool. So being able to move things around, copy, paste, resize, recolor, and similarly for images. So you can resize, color, not that you can color that one. You can add it to elements. If it's text, you can convert it to text. So the image manipulation with Goodnotes is phenomenal. And not to mention the lasso tool being absolutely great. You can grab a bunch of stuff and move it around, cut, paste, resize, color, add to elements. It is absolutely great. For pens, highlighters, and shape tools, you have the option to have 3 favorite colors that you can change and 3 different sizes. So it's not quite as good as the favorites option for Collanote and with Notability if you do subscribe, but you do have many different options in terms of quick access, size, and color. So the other benefit of Goodnotes is if you have an image, say like this one we have in stickers, and this is the Cozy Kitten Digital Utility Sticker Set, by the way, that you can get on the app, but you can add to elements. So let's add that to demo so that when we go to this, you go to elements and you can add laundry. There we go. So if you have stickers that you use regularly from different creators and you don't want to have to go to your sticker book every single time and copy and paste, you can just go to your elements and you can add those there. So for instance, here are some of my favorite work stickers that I made for myself. These I use to manipulate different images. These I put for demos. So for instance there. Yeah, so it's just something that's very handy for quick use. So if you, for instance, have banners or things like that that you use regularly for your note taking, you can have it in Elements. And you can have different folders. So for instance, you can have a maths, science, all those different files, and you can have different stickers for each. So if you have a blue theme for maths, a green for science, you can have that within your Elements. The next is the handwriting recognition tool. So if I say, hello world, convert to text, and then I can, copy that and paste it. And it would be, unfortunately I've been using white recently, so, but yeah, it can change it to text. The other benefit of the handwriting recognition tool, help medical science, help science, math, English, math. And you can search for math and it'll tell you where you can find each one, and you can search for the next one. So this is phenomenal for if you have a really big notebook of notes and you're looking for a specific topic. It will recognize your handwriting and it will take you there. Then the other benefit, like with Collanote, is the eraser auto deselect. So you can erase and it goes back to your last tool. And another benefit, there are also many different notebooks to choose from. So you have different covers. So if you have a different cover for the different subjects, you can have that. And there we go. So simple blue. You have different papers. So you have narrow, you have wide rules, you have dots, you have grids, you have different styles of writing paper. So Cornell, single column, double column. You have planners, so you have accounting, you have monthly planners, you have weekly planners. So there are many options. Not as many as Collanote, I have to admit, but there are quite a lot to choose from. So the cons of Goodnotes is, one, it's not free. It doesn't have the voice recorder and the filing system sucks. But other than that, I do find it a very phenomenal note-taking app. I am biased, again. I do have a lot more content on how to use Goodnotes in one of my previous videos. So Goodnotes for beginners. So if you want to see everything you can do in Goodnotes, that's there. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Yeah, so those are the pros and cons of each of the note-taking apps. Yeah, if I had to say non-bias, if I were a first-time user for note-taking apps, personally, I would probably go for Collanote if I didn't know better about the side swiping, because it's free and it just has so many options. Yeah, I think that would be the one I choose. Fortunately, I have Goodnotes, and I'm used to Goodnotes, and that's in my routine, and I'll probably continue using Goodnotes. But what I might do quite often with Collanote is make use of all these different papers and just take them to Goodnotes, I think. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Anyway, so that's it for the pros and the cons of the different note-taking apps, in my personal opinion. You could probably find tons of videos on YouTube for that. But if you do want to see a video on YouTube about Goodnotes, I'll add the link in the description below for that video. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great day. Stay safe out there.